Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, my beautiful pen friends, and welcome to another video with your host, Andrew. So, today you are in for another treat. This is a pen which, again, has not had any UK-based reviews as far as I can tell, and has had very little coverage in general, I feel, in comparison to other brands on the internet. So what pen am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the SCHONDSGN Pocket 6. Now, please just follow me into the unboxing section of this video and then we will crack on with it. Okay, welcome ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And here we go, we have got the SCHONDSGN Pocket 6. Now Sean is a designer from Philadelphia in America, and he produces these wonderful little pocket pens. Now SCHONDSGN hasn't been going around a huge amount of time, maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe more. I don't have the exact details, but I know he's a fairly new company, and he's a very young guy who is very enthusiastic about making beautiful little pocket fountain pens. And this really is a very sweet pen. If I hold this up to my thumb, careful, if I hold this up to my thumb, as you can see, it's just roughly about an inch longer than on my knuckle, which I'll try and hold around now. Try and do a bit of a contortionist act. So yes, it's a very small pen, but it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And the finish we've got is, and I need to check on the pronunciation of this. Okay, so we got the cinnamon suminagashi. I hope I pronunciated that correctly. I just had to double check to make sure I was going to get that correct. But as I turn around the barrel, you can see these sort of, almost reminds me of like an oil spill. And it's really quite beautiful in this anodized material, really is. This is the top of the pen, and that is the bottom. So to operate this pen, we've got a longer, slightly longer barrel section, sorry, slightly longer cap section, and then that tip comes off, and then it just comes onto the end, and there we go. We've got a regular sized fountain pen, okay? Very nice indeed. I do usually post my caps, but this still feels quite balanced and not disproportionate. Now if we look at the nib, which is really the star of the show and part of the naming convention, it is a number size 6 nib. I believe this could be a Yovo nib. Please do correct me if I'm wrong, but the scroll patterns sort of remind me of the ones on my Leonardo Messenger. But as I say, I could be wrong, and do please correct me if I am. So, what have we got here? We have got a silver anodized section here in plain, which contrasts really nicely to the barrel. And then coming up from the barrel, we have got the clip. So the cap, sorry, the clip. There is no clip on here, which is a little bit of a shame. And I have got a few ideas for Ian. I do like to have clips on my pen because I just have that extra level of thumb security when I'm in work. My main day job is working as a teaching assistant, and quite often I'm having to lean over, and I do worry that either putting it in my pocket or putting it in here, the pen would roll out, and I don't really want to do that. Okay, so having that clip on there would be absolutely fantastic. Still, I was very excited that Isoldes have now actually started stocking SCHONDSGN's pens, and I think Isoldes is probably one of 2 UK distributors of Sean Designs pens. And yeah, it's a really beautiful pen. Right, so without further ado, let's go over to the drawing and writing sample and see how this pen performs.
Okay, so we're going to get a quick writing sample written out. I did have experiences yesterday which weren't quite so favourable with the nib, but it's had time to sort of settle in now, and I can happily report that this nib is performing much, much better. So we'll get the quick brown fox written out. We'll do a few diagonal, horizontal and vertical strokes just for your sort of viewing pleasure, and I'll also do a smear test. Now, I appreciate some of the consistency to my videos is off, and this is something which I have noticed myself, so I will try and in the future create a little bit more uniformity with my pen reviews, and I will try and maybe even section them off so that they have got a little bit more uniformity and consistency. So these are sort of the learning, the sort of the path of learning, I should say, for a YouTuber. It's easy to often criticize other YouTubers, but when you come to do it yourself, it's never as easy as you would imagine, especially when you speak off the cuff, which I tend to do. So I hope you can bear with me, and apologies for the little mistake which I made with the capital T. It's quite early in the morning in England, and I'm trying to get this done. I've got a lovely barbecue later as well, so I've got quite a number of things to do, as well as doing some product shots of the pen and editing of this video. So my initial impressions of the nib. It's a fantastic nib. You know, it's a drier nib, being Yovo, and that actually in many ways is fine, because when you're actually writing on many forms of paper, I tend to find Yovo is much, much better than Bock. I do prefer a wetter nib, however. I do feel it can show off the shading properties in a far better light, but I think for an everyday sort of writing experience, Yovo nibs are what I tend to lean towards. Obviously, this is a personal preference, and everyone else will have their own sort of thoughts and feelings on this. So let's just get the rest of these swirls written, sort of drawn out, I should say. We'll do a bit of line variation as well. As you can see, we are getting a little bit of line variation out of it. Nothing to write home about, and certainly not as springy as Bock nibs, but all in all, it's pretty good. Okay, so we're just going to do a bit of reverse writing, and as you can see from this, it is possible to reverse write. However, if it was a hair wetter, I think that the feed would keep up with reverse writing in a much better light. Having said that, it is smooth, and for art purposes, it is great. So let's move on to doing that, and then go on to the rest of the sample. Okay, so we're just going to get the square drawn out, and as you can see, it is quite wet in some respects. It's, when you're sort of drawing with an ink, it does perform much more wetter than if you were, for example, just regularly writing. So it is a very good nib, as you can see. It's laying down a nice sort of wet sort of square here. It's not the wettest nib in the world, but it's, for in all its intended purposes, on this Tomoe River paper, it's performing pretty well. So I think one thing which is quite interesting about this ink is that it is almost like a claret colour. Maybe Ian can confirm that. And I am getting a lot of reds, and I am also getting browns. Now, that isn't necessarily transmitting so well onto this feed, sorry, onto this video, but it is pretty good. So we'll just do a smear test and see how that goes. So one pass, it's okay. You can see it does smear a little bit, but obviously this is no gusher or fire hose, as penultimate David would call it. And then a couple of passes, and there we go. We've got a little bit more wetness there. Only just a hair, though. Okay, so yeah, it's all in all, it's a pretty good performing nib. The ink obviously does have a determining factor in how the pen performs, and hopefully, if I can get that squeeze converter, then I can put in a slightly wetter ink. But as you can see, it is a very good performer. So now let's go on to doing the drawing, which Jennifer has very kindly provided the photograph for, and I'll leave her social media link just down in the bottom left-hand corner.
Okay, so what do you actually get with this pen? Well, you get a nice box. It's very practical. I would like to have a sort of laser etched or cardboard sleeve there, but it's practical and you could use it for maybe storing pens in there if you can take out the foam, which would be great. You also get a components list, sorry. Getting worse then, components list, and also you get Ian's social media and contact details. So great box, very simple, very basic. Okay, pros and cons of the pen, and then we'll give it a bit of a score after. Really good sized pen. I'll stick up the measurements now, and you can see that just to the side. Really practical, great size number 6 nib. When you thread the cap onto the barrel, it is a beautiful sized pen. Okay, what don't I like about the pen? Don't like that. Do not like cartridges. What would I do to improve that? Well, I'll talk about that in the next section. Anything else I don't like about it? No, not really. I think that is really my own sort of main complaint. Right, so what will I do to actually improve this? Well, let's start from the nib, and then we'll work to the cap and go down. I would have maybe some form of branding on there, Ian. That would be lovely. Maybe those diamond patterns which you've got on there, just laser etched or diamond etched into there. That would be really nice. I know you are doing your own nibs in the future, so maybe that would be something which you can consider. Okay, what else would I do? I'd make the barrel slightly longer. Why? Well, what you could theoretically do then is put a little miniature plunger system in there. That would be fantastic. The other thing I would do is that on the cap, I'd make it threaded, and then you could essentially, with that, extend it a little bit to put a roll stop or a clip on there, so that would be fantastic. I know obviously this would be making the pen a little bit longer, but I still think it would be a very good pocketable size from my own perspective. Obviously I'm not an engineer, so these are my own sort of naive thoughts on this, so to speak. But that's it really in a nutshell. It is a very attractive pen. It comes in various different colours, and you can check out the full range on Isords as well. Well, full range to what he actually has in stock. You can also check out Ian's website, which has got literally the full range on there. So if you're in the States, this will be certainly a pen which has got a lot more options for purchasing. You can do international shipping as well, but don't forget, if you are in the UK, it's likely that you will be having to pay an import tax on that. So just something to bear in mind. Okay, so what would I give this pen out of 100? I'd give it about 80. I think it's an excellent pen, absolutely fantastic pen. Just really, the real niggle for me really is that cartridge. I know I bought the pen knowing that there's no other system which you can use, but I was really interested to see what this pen is like, and it has not really disappointed. It only did stop once during the actual drawing sample, and that's purely because I was just doing a point releasing technique, which in my experience on other pens, it does dry out. So that's it in a nutshell. Jennifer, thank you so much for providing the wonderful artwork to copy from. And Roy, thank you for getting this pen shipped so promptly. And lastly, Dave, thank you so much for the recommendation of the plunger. So I'll certainly be looking into that in the future. If you do like the video and the content, give it a thumbs up. If there's something which you feel that could be improved, leave it in the comment section below. And I shall see you in the next video next week for a very special feature pen. And I'm very much looking forward to sharing that with you. So look out on the 25th for that video, and I shall see you then. Till then, goodbye.